Years ago, I had this crazy nightmare. It was as real as a dream could get. I dreamed I was going into my kitchen to make coffee, and after making coffee in my favorite cup, I reached for the sugar dispenser. And as I was pouring sugar into the coffee, a large spider came out and bit me. I immediately dropped the shaker and woke up in a panic. Now, this may sound crazy, but I immediately knew what the dream meant. The cup was my insatiable love for God's church. The coffee was my love for God's people. The sugar was my call. My purpose is to pour into God's people, helping them heal and recover. And right now, you're probably thinking, the spider must have been Satan. Ken, the spider had to have been Satan. Wrong. The spider was not Satan, and the dream did not come from Satan. I immediately knew the spider was my struggle with porn. But the spider actually could be whatever you're struggling with: food, weed, alcohol, creeping, cursing, your insatiable need for validation, unhealthy codependence, or whatever. See, everyone has their own spider or stronghold. So, what's a stronghold? In the Bible, a stronghold was a fortified place, a place of protection, and it kept you safe. Fortified comes from the word fortify, which means to strengthen. It's a military term meaning to make strong. In fact, our term goodbye came from God be with you. In other words, when people would leave the fort and head out, people would say, God be with you, as a blessing of protection. It eventually went from God be with you to God be to goodbye. In the New Testament, it takes on a little bit different connotation. Whereas in the Old Testament, it was a place of protection, a fort. In the New Testament, it has the undertone that you went into it for some type of protection. However, you've been in it for so long, you can no longer leave. Or worse, you don't actually want to leave. It is actually become a comfort or a comfort. It's a stronghold. In addiction ministry, we often quote, you take a drink, but eventually the drink takes you. You went to the drink for comfort, but now you can never leave, or you struggle to leave. God, in his immeasurable love for me, was warning me that I needed to kill my love for porn. Yes, I admit I was a pastor with a love for porn. God's warning was that if I didn't kill this spider, it would come back to bite me. However, it's difficult to walk away from a spider or a stronghold you love. God's warning to me was simple. You see, I couldn't love both my call to the gospel message of healing and porn at the same time. Matthew 6 shares, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. It is not a matter of if you will be bit. It's a matter of when you will be bit. I wish I could tell you that that was that. Porn problem over. But that's not how wounds, strongholds, and addictions work. See, I still spent years trying to break free from porn's venom. And although I seriously struggled, I would never admit I was an addict. I admitted I had a struggle, but refused to believe it was anything other than a struggle. Years ago, I remember meeting with a young man, and he told me that he was struggling with porn. To his surprise, as a pastor, I said, good. Struggling means you're trying to overcome it. I would actually be more concerned if you weren't struggling. This would mean that you've submitted. That same analogy for years justified my own struggle. Hey, at least I'm struggling. The first step in Celebrate Recovery's 12 steps is to admit. One morning, with tears in my eyes, I threw up my hands and I verbally confessed to God that I was an addict. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And in the midst of my tears, I heard him say, I know, Ken, but you've always been an addict. He then showed me me. He showed me my life and lifestyle of sexual promiscuity and lust. In seconds, he showed me all my pre-Christ life that has now seeped into my post-Christ life. Like Ezekiel looking over the valley of dry bones, he allowed me to see the years of sex that has dominated most of my life, since about the 5th or 6th grade. And the orgies I distinctly remember that started in the 8th grade. Right now you're thinking, Ken, you had to have quit then. You had to have quit. Wrong. I tried again and again to quit, but the stronghold was a strong hold. Sometime after that, I was reading 2 Samuel chapter 24. Has nothing to do with sexual promiscuity or porn or anything. But David said he would not make an offering to God that didn't cost him anything. I suddenly realized I was trying to offer my stronghold, but honestly, it wasn't going to cost me anything. I had already confessed it to Tracy years ago. I had already been to Celebrate Recovery for years. So while I was offering up my addiction, guilt, and shame, it wasn't really costing me anything. Then I remember Deuteronomy 23:23. It says, whatever your lips utter, you must be sure to do because you made your vows freely to the Lord. I realized I was trying to quit, but I made no vow to God to quit. At that moment, I vowed that when, not if, when I looked at porn again, I would destroy that device. 4 years ago, in February, I smashed this phone and have been sober ever since. And it hurt like crazy. Not because I smashed an expensive device, but because I was destroying an expensive vice. In other words, I knew that if I didn't let this go, it was going to come back to haunt me more than a phone. I knew it was going to cost me the thing I value most, my call to the gospel message. Regardless of what your stronghold is, whether it's food, drug, alcohol, anger, lust, gossip, or whatever, the real question is, what does strongholds really desire? Let me just be honest with you. It wants your testimony. Our addictive habitual patterns, our addictive tendencies, our strongholds wants to kill, steal, and destroy our testimony and our witness. My stronghold was going to cost me more than a phone. It was going to cost me my family's reputation. It was going to cost me my purpose, and it could have very well cost me my very soul. I am part of New Life Church, which is a large multi-congregational church here in Colorado. And years before I ever set foot in Colorado Springs, the senior pastor destroyed his reputation, he destroyed his ministry, and he almost destroyed New Life Church. The new pastor, the current pastor, Pastor Brady Boyd, came in and he has spent years working through all the pain and hurt that one person's stronghold caused. A stronghold is not just trying to destroy you. It's trying to destroy, hurt, and harm everyone connected to you. My mother died of lung cancer from years of smoking, and even with cancer, she still wanted a cigarette. My stepfather died of alcoholism, and even when he was dwindling to nothing, he wanted a drink. Listen to me very carefully. If you need help with porn or whatever stronghold or addiction you're struggling with, I recommend starting with Celebrate Recovery. CR is located in almost every city. But if you need more personal experience, then my recommendation is Be Broken Ministries, and I'll have both of those links below. Those were my recommendations. Now this is my warning. If you continue to do what you've always done, you'll always have what you've always had. So what do strongholds really desire? They want it all.